So as you can see, I started a new world on my server, and I went out into the boondocks and I found a village. And this is where I set up to start all my things, creating an iron farm over there. I got my crops here, I got my melons here, I got my sheep here, and this is my wonderful free-range village breeder that I always like to do. And so I said to myself, it's time to mine some diamonds. And as I was digging down and I got to right about here, I started to hear tons of spiders. So after getting my diamonds for my diamond pickaxe, I came here to investigate, and what did I found? I found one spider spawner. And I'll just hop on over to here. I found two spider spawners. And around this corner, I found a third spider spawner. So I thought, oh, can I create a farm with this? So it's no mystery that I do all my stuff on a Mac. And so what we have here is we have a graph of the 3 spider spawners with a circle set that's 16 away from the thing. Because spider spawners spawn when you're within 16 blocks of them, or the center of the spider spawner. And so I wanted to see if there was overlap. And as you can see, there is overlap. And so it is possible to find a position, at least mathematically, and not in the world of Minecraft where you can only really stand on a block at a time for these things. But mathematically, they do overlap. And so I went on to the next part of my quest to see if I could find a point that I could stand that they all 3 would spawn at. So if you looked at the equations and inspected them on the previous thing that I was showing, but you realize that all these spawners are approximately on the same level. One's at 28, 29, and 27 elevation-wise. And so to figure out what the center point is, I decided, hey, I'm going to treat those 3 guys like they're at the same level. The other thing is you're trying to find a point that's equidistant, and that's kind of hard to calculate, and I decided to sort of cheese it. And the way that I cheesed it is if you can easily calculate, halfway between any 2 lines, any 2 points, and then you can then draw a line from that point to that point and that point to that point and calculate it fairly easily. And then where these 2 guys cross is the centroid of the triangle. It's the balancing point. And I decided to start with that as my thing. And so I ran through all my calculations, and what I finally ended up with was that centroid point was at 1,943 and 3,653. And so then I created this spreadsheet. And what this spreadsheet is doing, it shows the 3 centers of the spider spawners. And it's calculating a distance to a fixed point that I can vary. And you see this point is actually a little different than the one that was in there. And that was because this was the point that I found. So this one I calculated was 1943, and this one I calculated was 3653. And if we put those things that I calculated in, we see that this point right here, this spawner is more than 16 away. And so I wanted to avoid that. And so I just dinked around with these guys, and until I got them all within, less than 16 all around. These are kind of the same. This one's the same. I said, hey, it's good. Now the thing that's interesting is this P1 represents the spawner that didn't activate when I stood at this point, but you can see right here it's actually closest. So you'll see that. So then the next thing to do is to take this elevation and X and Z thing and to the real world and stand at the spot and see if it actually activates. So I assume there's going to be a bunch of guys telling me, you did it totally wrong, but I got there. So I calculated that point and I went to here, and this 13 is where that point was. And so I went and I brought up remote and I went to see, are they all activated? And 2 of them were activated, but the 3rd one was not. And so I just stepped forward 1, and then I went, And now they're all activated. So this is going to be my spot that I'm going to stand when I get my spider. So I set up a thing that's very standard to your standard thing that you see on that sort of classical spider spawner. And so what I'm going to try to do, and I always try to do these things on my own first and not go to a thing immediately. I'm going to try to get the spiders to go in there, and then I'm going to use a bubble elevator to get them into position. And they're going to pop up there and then slide into there, and I'll close all this stuff up. And we'll see if that works. You know, a lot of times my stuff doesn't work because they have a tendency to get caught in weird places. And then you got to go figure out how to unstick them. So let's see how that goes. So here we are in remote view, and what we can see is that it didn't go very well at all. And I tried experiments with trapdoors and had all the same issues. And so I decided, man, this is not working at all. So we're going to have to go with something totally different. And here it goes. And here we are with the final design. I actually went through several iterations on the bubble elevator. As you saw in the time lapse there, it started as a 1x1. I then went to a 2x3, and that didn't work well because the spiders got caught in the corners. Then they had those fences that they would spit things across in the traditional spider spawner, and they were getting trapped there. And so what I ended up with is a 1x3. And now let's see how this thing works when we let it go for 10 minutes. So if you were paying attention in the corner to frame rates, you saw that the frame rate went down significantly. I typically have it capped at 100, and we see that it's down to like 30. So that is pretty impressive, the number of spiders that are sitting here. There are so many of them that they're really significantly affecting my frame rate. And so let's take a look at them all here. Look at them. They're a bunch. Oops, I'm trying to get over here. And what I'm going to show is the problem with the 1x1 is they were getting trapped and they were never going up. And then the 2x3s, they were getting trapped at the top. But here, basically the spiders, they bump each other up the 1x3. So it's like kind of a good compromise. And they never get trapped to the point that they despawn down there. So let's just sit here and kill these guys and see how long it takes for me to get all the XP from them. It's a bit. So you see, I went from 28 to 38 on my XP. That thing took like 2 minutes to collect all that XP, and you see my frame rate went back to 100. So I'm here collecting a bit more, and I've filled all my boxes with string and spider eyes. I'll need to go do something with this, but I'll do that later. But as you see, this spider farm has been pretty successful. So as I get all excited and squat and hop up and down, I'm going to tell you, don't do what I do. Like and subscribe.